My name is Will Aha. I'm the VP of Customer Operations for Panacea Technologies. Panacea had started in 1996, right around that time when most system integration companies were getting their start. So there's this kind of transition from having internal integration outfits that did automation in-house, sometimes made their own PLCs in-house, or having A&E firms that had the automation group, to really having these standalone system integration companies. And we started around that same time as well. What's very unique about us is our very first project that we did as a company was the largest batch biotech facility in the world at the time. And to kind of cut your teeth as a company on one of the largest biotech plants in the world is definitely a challenge. What that came with is the need for us to set up these set of standards internally to manage these massive projects and manage regulated industries and all the ins and outs that they had. And we figured out that we really had a knack for that. So as a company, we went the route that some system integration companies go, which is buckle down to something that we're really good at and then just stay within there. So we buckled down and decided, you know what, regulated industries, that's where it is for us. We understand documentation, we understand validation, we understand the robust systems that you have in place. And it's more than what people realize sometimes. I mean, it can be something as simple as having a coordinated way to do projects, but it could be something as robust as making sure that your server room has access control components on it, making sure that only certain people have access to the building and that you're tracking who is coming in and coming out, and that you're maintaining that data for a given amount of years. So we knew all of these things going into it, and that's what really helped us set up our company. Kind of interesting things about Panacea. We were named the 2017 System Integrator of the Year. We've had 8 engineers named in the Engineering Leaders Under 40 program that's done by Control Engineering Magazine. We've had 8 inducted into those in the last 4 years. We've been in over 50 industry publications in the past 4 or 5 years. And our product that we make, which is a bioreactor control platform, won an Innovator Award from Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Magazine. And that last award is kind of something that I think defines us as a company. You'll see our tagline a lot of places, which is innovative, dedicated, award winning. And, and over the award portion, the dedication portion, comes with building a company and seeing the growth that we've seen in the last 5 years. But innovation is what has defined Panacea. And that's really how it is that we found our way to Ignition and Opto 22. Integration companies, just to kind of peel back the curtains a little bit, a lot of us will dictate how we're doing as a company based on billable time and overhead time. Why that's important is because overhead time is when engineers are not really doing anything for a project. Well, we capitalize on that time as much as possible and look at it as important in some ways. What I mean by that is when engineers aren't on a project or they aren't doing something, we have them pursue a project that they're passionate about. Or look at a new technology that's coming down the pipeline. This is what got us into virtualization a long time ago. We had a project where we had to simulate a plant, and the electricity that we needed to run the servers exceeded the supply line that came into our building. So we had to come up with something new and innovative to be able to do that simulation. We found virtualization. Whenever we saw the HMI market was shifting and we were starting to see this shift away from on machine panel mounted type HMIs where people would have sticky notes with their passwords on the front of them. And we started seeing more of this server client architecture, and we found Ignition and saw what they were doing. Our engineers immediately jumped on it and started evaluating it. And it was missing some features that we needed for the pharmaceutical world up until recently. And we've seen an explosion on that side, but we were always learning it and bringing it inside and seeing what we can do, picking it apart. And that's exactly how it is that we found Opto 22 and got involved with the Epic and the Rio. And from the Epic standpoint, it's something that you just don't see in the PLC market right now. The features that it has, all of the different coding languages, the ability to run anything that you want on there, being able to actually run an Ignition application if you wanted to, down to the way that the controller itself is packaged, even how easy it is to reach the I/O, being able to see on the front of it what's going on inside for diagnostics and calibration and things like that. And whenever we first saw it, we were very, very impressed. Not to mention it's manufactured in the U.S., which is something you don't often see. You see the sales orgs here, but manufacturing not here. So when we saw that our products are coming from Temecula, pretty impressive there. And then when you actually went hands-on with them, that's where our engineers got excited, because We have a lot of engineers coming straight out of college that are learning the newest coding languages, so to speak. And it was something that just made sense to them. It wasn't like trying to show them a platform that was designed in the late 80s, early 90s, and has just kind of been, slapped a new paint job on top of it. It really did feel new and innovative. And our engineers took to it very, very quickly, to the point where our training program for our new engineers now includes a project on the Opto22 platform. Our OpenBio controller is available with Opto22 as a standard. So with other control systems, you can actually choose to deploy it with Opto22, and its default version is Opto22 and Ignition. And our combination with being inductive automation premier integrators, being able to deploy with Opto22 has been a really neat experience, especially in building automation. That's one of the bigger places we've seen success with it, because we can mimic building automation systems utilizing this platform very easily. We heard about the Rio, and we thought it was too good to be true, because we've been saying forever that power over Ethernet can be part of the automation world, and we have all of these little applications where we have these freezers, or we have these incubators, or we have some piece of building automation or environmental monitoring that's out in the field, that it's just a couple of I/O points. And to need to put together a control panel and a controller and a power source, and worry about, is it 120 or is it 24, so that we're going to be on ladders, we have to suit up in the spacesuits for it, and to be able to take all of that out with a single cable, where we're running the couple of points that we need back, or being able to have distributed systems running on this kind of thing. I mean, it's very, very forward thinking, and I think that the more of our clients that have purchased the Epics, even just as a training system or just to see, because we'll bring clients in to train, the last thing we'll show them is here's what's coming on the horizon, and it's usually something ignition related. And we have the Epic training system in our office, so we've been showing it virtually as of late, obviously, but being able to show them, here is a new controller. It's unlike any of the controllers that are currently on the market. Here's what it can do. Really has impressed a lot of people, and I think that's something we're excited to see where it goes. Because what's kept Panacea alive has been innovation. Everyone kind of defines their company in a different way, and we've defined ours on innovation, and always trying to deploy what's new and deploy in an innovative way. And I think that Opto22 definitely nailed that, and they're paired up with with being able to deploy with Ignition, makes it even better. I mean, you've got two of the more forward-thinking automation companies in the market, and being able to deploy solutions with both of them is huge. One of our places that we get involved the soonest is right at the beginning of a project. So believe it or not, most of our projects start with a client coming and saying, like, I have no idea what it is that, how it is that we're going to do what we need to do, but here's what we're doing. We've got a new building, we've got a new suite coming in, we've got new lines coming in, we've got an aging infrastructure. We have no idea what our infrastructure is. We had some sort of FDA finding about passwords. We're worried about data integrity. A lot of it is just we want to pick your brain. We know that we've got an issue. We're not exactly sure what that issue is, but we want to take a look at it. And so we put together these studies, being very cognizant that studies can be tough, because sometimes you're paying a lot of money for maybe just here's what it is that you have and where you should go. So all of our studies start with talking to the client, getting an idea of where their mindset is, where they're trying to get to, putting the pieces together to get there. And at the end of it, they actually get some deliverables. So we'll put together some specification documents. We'll put together like a user requirement specification and a functional requirement specification. So some documents they have something to build on if they choose not to go with us in the future. But that's one of the main ways that we've helped people to begin with, specifically with technologies like Opto22 and Ignition. Oftentimes it's very different than what they're used to. So not only is there the question of, hey, we have an aging infrastructure, can you tell us what our legacy status is and what our risks are as far as being able to get parts, things like that. Or whether it's just we're putting in a brand new building, we're tired of XYZ platform, we want to try something different. We can kind of meld those two together into here's the new platform that you're considering using, here's how it works, here's the risks that you have, here's how we mitigate them. So that's really where we start, is that feasibility and engineering study. That's a bulk of our work at the beginning. Then after that, we have all your typical system integration services. So if you need help with programming, you need help with commissioning, you need turnkey delivery services, We have a manufacturing partner that's 10 minutes from our Pennsylvania headquarters location. So be able to drive right over and be able to see the things that we're actually manufacturing, made and shipped out and testing. And then even during the current pandemic situation, we've been able to set up multiple cameras and run FATs completely remotely, letting a client actually view what it is that we're doing. So that's been a huge help. So from the project inception through your typical programming, commissioning, configuration, validation, computer system validation, and validation is a big part of what we do specifically for GMPs, through the actual manufacturing of panels or equipment, and then to the actual shipping it to site, getting it set up, and all of that. We've got it covered, including long-term site support between our different offices, and then if we need to put people locally, it's something we do as well. So we've got those typical services. Now a couple of interesting ones that we have that not everyone does is we have an automation IT group that can build out entire infrastructures, design networks, design the virtual networks, putting together the virtual infrastructure, actually setting up the operating systems, deploying patch management platforms, setting up all the automation software, getting it installed, coordinated, tested, making sure it's communicating to everything. That's something that's a bit unique for us because we've been able to be, that center sliver of the Venn diagram of IT and OT converging that everyone's talking about. We've actually been able to be that in-between mechanism, talk to automation because we're in that world and we understand it, talk to IT because we're also in that world and understand that, and then deploy plant networks that work for everybody. So it satisfies enterprise IT requirements and also gets the most out of the network from an automation standpoint. So the networking is a big one. Cybersecurity is a big one. Patch management is a unique service for us. And then legacy migrations. I think that's probably one of our strongest suits as a company. So we can go in, take a look at an aging infrastructure, help people identify based on machine use, its criticality or what it's producing, the platform, how old the platform is, where the parts are located, how likely the vendor is to support it, all of those things, and help them rank their lines or rank your lines based on what is the most critical. If this were to go down and you lost a part, then you're really in a lot of trouble. You could leave this one on the plant floor forever and you never have an issue. And then creating migration platforms from a risk-based approach per GMP stuff to make sure we can get you from legacy to modern. And I think the big keyword there is modernization. So not only just putting the old code in new plastic, as they say, but also seeing if there's things we can take advantage of from a functionality standpoint. So can we get a little bit more out of a newer controller because this thing's 15, 20 years old and we can do a little bit better now, or is there an easier way to do things? Can we pull more data out of something? Is there data available now that it just wasn't available before? Things like that. So I really think that's the biggest places that Panacea can help is kicking off a project in the right way and helping design it correctly, supporting it long term, everything in between, and then those specialty standalone services.